Am I the antagonist for wanting an ASL interpreter at my sibling's wedding because my partner is deaf? I, 42 years old female, will be officiating my brother's, 37 years old, wedding next month. Several months ago, I asked my brother and his fiancée, 35 years old female, if I could make arrangements and pay for an American Sign Language interpreter to be present for the ceremony, since my boyfriend, 43 years old male, is deaf and I cannot support his communication while officiating the wedding. After some discussion, my brother said that I could as long as the interpreter would not be in any photos. I made the arrangements and informed my boyfriend that I had secured an interpreter. Yesterday I received an email with the wedding day itinerary from the wedding day coordinator, and it did not mention the interpreter's arrival time. As a courtesy, I asked my brother's fiancée if the coordinator needed to know the interpreter's arrival time. In summary, her response was that they decided that I cannot have the interpreter at the wedding because they are not hiring an interpreter for her non-English speaking family members, and they would be providing paper copies of the ceremony script for the non-English speaking guests in their native languages, and I could print it out for my boyfriend if I wanted. I expressed that my boyfriend needs the accommodation of an interpreter, which I would be providing and paying for in order to participate like everyone else, and that having a disability and being a non-English speaker are not comparable. She also said that she did not know I hired an interpreter because she thought the idea was discussed, but a decision hadn't been made. When I questioned my brother, he said that there was a miscommunication, admitted that he did say I could hire an interpreter, but is now agreeing with his fiancée. I have tried explaining why this is not acceptable and that my boyfriend needs an interpreter for the ceremony. I even gave the example that this would be like telling a guest with mobility problems that he or she can't use his or her own wheelchair at the wedding, and argued that it is their choice to not provide an interpreter for their non-English speaking guests since they do not think it is fair to have an interpreter present for my boyfriend, but not their non-English speaking guests. They could provide interpreters for everyone who needs one if they wanted, and I am sure that if her family wanted to provide an interpreter for their guests, it would not be an issue because we had already discussed having her brother translate for me while I am officiating, but he did not want to. Am I the asshole for arguing with their decision to not have an American Sign Language interpreter, which I arranged and paid for with my brother's permission, at their wedding to accommodate my boyfriend? While it's important to respect the wishes of the couple on their wedding day, it's also crucial to acknowledge the needs and accommodations necessary for all guests to fully participate in the celebration. Denying your boyfriend the assistance of an interpreter is akin to denying someone with mobility issues the use of a wheelchair at the event. It's just not right. Your efforts to provide this accommodation were thoughtful and generous, and it's unfortunate that they have been met with resistance. Hopefully, your brother and his fiancée can reconsider their decision and understand the importance of inclusivity for all guests. And who knows, maybe a sign language interpreter could add a unique touch to the wedding photos. Am I the antagonist for flipping out on my fiancée after her daughter almost got me arrested? I, 38-year-old male, got engaged to my fiancée, 37-year-old female, about 3 months ago. We've been dating for almost 3 years. She has 2 kids from a previous relationship, 15-year-old female and 12-year-old male. Their dad is involved in their lives, and for the most part, the adults all co-parent and communicate well. I get along really well with the 12-year-old, but I've always struggled to build a relationship with my soon-to-be stepdaughter Riley. She has made it very clear to me, my fiancé, and her biological dad, that she doesn't view me as a parent and doesn't want me to try and be a father to her because she already has one. A few days ago, my fiancé sent me a text asking me if I could pick up Riley from school because she had something come up at work that was going to keep her late. My fiancé usually picks up Riley once a week and brings her to a chiropractic appointment to help with a sports injury Riley got. She told me she would call the school to let them know that I would be picking Riley up because I wasn't on the approved pickup list yet. However, when I got to Riley's school, it quickly became apparent that my fiancé forgot to call the school. The school has locked doors that require you to have a code or be buzzed in by the office. I buzzed into the office to let them know I was there to pick up Riley and that my fiancé should have called to let them know. They didn't know anything about it. I was left waiting outside for 5-10 minutes while they figured it out. I tried calling and texting my fiancé, but she didn't answer. Then, the school resource officer, an actual uniformed cop, came out and told me that I would have to leave, and that if I refused, then he would arrest me for trespassing. I tried talking with him, but he just kept saying I was not authorized to be on school property and that I had to leave. I had no choice but to leave without Riley. Finally, an hour later, my fiancé called me back. I explained what happened, and she apologized for forgetting to call the school because she got distracted with work. She told me she would figure it out and meet me at home. When she and Riley got home, Riley went straight to her room. My fiancé sat me down and told me that Riley had lied to the office and told them that she didn't know who I was and had never seen me before. She thought it would be funny. She told me she explained to Riley how dangerous that was and was going to work with Riley's dad to figure out a punishment. Needless to say, I did not take that news well. I admit I did raise my voice to her. I didn't yell, but I did get louder than I usually talk. She told me to calm down, and I told her that I won't calm down because her daughter almost got me arrested because she thought it would be funny. I told her that she's just as responsible for this as Riley is because she didn't call the school, and it put me in a position where I looked like a creep or predator. My fiancé thinks I am overreacting and that I need to let her and Riley's dad handle this. Congratulations on your engagement. It seems like you found yourself in a bit of a pickle with Riley's school escapade. I understand that it's frustrating when things don't go according to plan. It sounds like there was a miscommunication that led to an awkward situation at the school. While it's important to address Riley's behavior, it's also crucial to have a conversation with your fiancé about the importance of clear communication in situations involving the children. It might be helpful to discuss setting boundaries and ensuring that everyone is on the same page moving forward. Being a step-parent can be challenging, especially when navigating relationships with children from a previous marriage. It's essential to approach these situations with understanding and patience. Perhaps a family meeting to address the incident and establish mutual respect could be beneficial. At the end of the day, maintaining open lines of communication and addressing issues as a team will help in fostering a harmonious blended family dynamic. Remember, humor can be a great tool to diffuse tension, but it's essential to address concerns seriously and constructively. Best of luck in navigating this tricky situation. Am I the antagonist for expecting my partner to care for me while I am extremely ill? Recently, I unexpectedly became very sick after catching a virus from my toddler and 11-month-old daughters. I ended up with bronchitis and pneumonia. I had a fever of 105 degrees Fahrenheit. I had severe coughing attacks and I was coughing up buckets of phlegm. I had severe chills and every night I'd be drenched in sweat from the coughing and fever. I didn't sleep for 5-7 days, just for 30 minutes here and there. I had to visit the emergency room 3 times due to severe chest pain and trouble breathing as my oxygen levels would regularly reach dangerous levels. I simply was not getting better. It just so happened that my wife had requested Friday and Monday off because our girls' daycare was closed. She did her best to care for the girls while I was isolated in the guest room. There were moments each day where she lost her temper with our toddler, and I had to muster whatever strength I had left to console our daughter from the outburst from my wife. She'd regularly snatch our daughter by the arm and drag her out of our bedroom and lock the door because she wasn't being quiet enough, leaving our daughter crying hysterically outside the door trying to get back in. I didn't like it, but I tried to be understanding. My wife was just frustrated and overwhelmed. A few days into my illness, I'd already been to the emergency room twice and I was not improving. I'd shared with my wife that I was getting worried if I got any worse I might die. I'd started to feel disoriented and dizzy, along with all my other symptoms. That same night, she told me she'd be going to work the next day, Monday, and taking our 2 daughters with her. I asked her why this was necessary, and she said she had a small project she needed to complete that was important to her. I told her that from my perspective, work could wait. I needed her, she was off anyway, and her boss is very understanding, and they'd figure it out. I didn't understand why she also felt the need to burden herself with work. She went anyway and left me alone for about 5 hours that day. I was upset and disappointed by this, and my wife could care less. The whole time I've been sick, she showed no empathy for me and was more annoyed than anything that I wasn't able to provide the utility I normally provide. I had to go back to the emergency room the day after she went to work, and thankfully I've started to feel a bit better now. It's been 2 weeks. Nonetheless, it's led to a deep division in the relationship with my wife. This is not out of the ordinary for her. She regularly puts work and everyone else before me. It just feels like this could be the last straw for me if I can't even count on her when I'm sick. Of course, she thinks I'm being dramatic, and she sees nothing wrong with what she did. She started the public campaign of making me the asshole for expecting her to stay home and care for me. Am I the asshole for expecting my wife to care and support me when I'm extremely sick? Is that really an unreasonable request? I'm sorry to hear that you've been through such a tough time with your illness. It sounds like a real roller coaster of coughing, sweating, and her visits. Not exactly a fun ride at the amusement park. Your wife's actions do seem a bit questionable, like leaving you solo during such a rough patch. Maybe she thought a little work project was exactly what the doctor ordered. But seriously, it's understandable that you expected some TLC instead. After all, who wants to be left feeling sicker than a dog without their partner's support? Sounds like you're looking for some comfort and care, not a one-way ticket to Splitsville. Let's hope you both can clear the foggy air and find a way to patch things up, and maybe even share a bucket of chicken soup. Wishing you a speedy recovery and a smoother road ahead. Am I the antagonist for not letting my mother-in-law name my child? I, 29 years old female, have been married to my husband, 31 years old male, for 2 years. We went to university together and worked at the same coffee shop. We instantly clicked and became best friends immediately, and after a while decided to date. The first time I met my mother-in-law, she wasn't very accepting of me and my personality. She, according to my husband, as he told me later, said, "She's too loud and obnoxious. I can't believe you'd date someone like her." I was appalled, obviously, but decided to ignore it instead of confronting her for fear of her openly rejecting me and not approving of our relationship. I never mentioned this incident, and according to my husband, she hasn't said anything else. After my graduation, we decided to get married. My mother-in-law seemed to be upset about it and was helicopter parenting the whole time. I tried to ignore it, but it got on my nerves. She wanted to decide the color of the flowers, the dress style, the decor, and even the wedding meal. I couldn't take it anymore and snapped at her. I reminded her that this was my and my husband's wedding, not hers. She was angry and I apologized for snapping at her. But to be honest, I was exhausted from all the wedding preparations with her backseat driving. Long story short, the wedding went well, and while she gave me a few dirty looks, she didn't do anything. Last year I got pregnant and had my baby on March 16th of this year. We didn't decide to name her until the last month of my pregnancy. My husband and I were thinking of names and landed on Andromeda. We thought it was gorgeous, and because we both loved astronomy, it was the perfect name. My husband was especially excited about this name. He's always been a bit of a geek, in the cutest way possible. And when he thought of it, we immediately knew this was the name for her. Mother-in-law, however, did not agree. She argued that she had wanted to continue the family tradition of the grandparents choosing the name. She said that she had been named by her grandmother, and so had my husband. I, however, thought this was a load of bull. She wanted us to name the baby Mary, after her and her grandmother. I thought this was selfish, but my husband seemed to be considering it. I explained to him that we shouldn't let his mother choose the name of our baby. We had already decided on the name, Andromeda. At a recent family get-together, we brought little Andy to see everyone. Mother-in-law kept referring to her as Mary, and I tried to tell her to stop. I told her multiple times that our baby was our baby, and her name was Andromeda. I legitimately think she is either delusional or has a personality disorder. I don't know how to get her to stop. My husband is considering changing Andromeda's name to Mary, just to get his mother to stop. I protested this, but it is still a sore subject in conversation. I don't know what to do. Am I the asshole, or should I listen to my husband and his mother about this? First of all, congratulations on the arrival of little Andy. Naming a baby is always a special moment, and it's important to choose a name that holds meaning for you and your husband. It sounds like Andromeda is a beautiful and unique choice that reflects your shared love for astronomy. As for your mother-in-law's insistence on naming the baby Mary, well, let's just say she seems to be orbiting in a different galaxy. It's understandable that she may have her own traditions and expectations, but ultimately the decision rests with you and your husband as the parents. It's important to stand your ground and assert your role as the parents in naming your child. Your mother-in-law's behavior might be annoying, but remember that this is your baby and your choice. It's not about disrespecting her, but about establishing boundaries and making decisions that are right for your family. Your husband may be torn between placating his mother and supporting your decision, but it's crucial to have a united front when it comes to important matters like this. Perhaps have a calm and honest discussion with him about why Andromeda is the perfect name for your daughter, and how changing it would be a compromise on your autonomy as parents. In the end, you are definitely not the asshole for standing up for your choice of name. It's a playful mix of your personalities and interests, and that's what makes it special. Keep shining bright like a star, Andromeda. Am I the antagonist for telling my parent they can't make me invite my step-sibling over my biological sibling? My dad died 10 years ago. I, 15 years old male, was 5, and my brother Evan, 17 years old male, was 7. Our mom got remarried 8 years ago, and we have a stepbrother Josh, 13 years old male. I'm not close to Josh, and neither is Evan. I don't hate him, can't really talk for Evan, but it's never felt the same, and I don't think of him as my real brother or my brother at all. I don't ignore him completely, but I don't try to make us friends either. We coexist in the house, and that's cool with me. But it's not cool with my mom, and it drives her crazy that Evan and I hang out and do stuff together that isn't with our friends, but we don't do stuff with Josh like that. It also bugs the crap out of her that we spend time with our dad's side of the family, and Josh isn't invited. Mom has asked for Josh to be included, but my grandparents, the ones who have rights to see us from court, say no to her each time. My grandparents and my mom don't like each other very much, and they're not family without dad here. For my 16th birthday, my grandparents told me I could take one person for an overnight trip. I decided to take Evan because my best friend wouldn't be allowed to go. His parents are strict about no overnights with anyone. My mom told me I should take Josh, and I told her I already said it to Evan, and I wanted to go with Evan. Mom told me I always do stuff with Evan and never with Josh, and this could be a fun brother bonding experience. She told me I could finally choose Josh for something over Evan. I told her I would never choose Josh over Evan. She told me she can insist and make sure my grandparents know she's not okay with it. I told her they always knew she wasn't okay with them, not including Josh, so why would it change? She claims she's my mom and can make me, and I told her she can't make me choose my stepbrother over my brother, and I was going to say real brother, but I knew Mom would be pissed, so didn't. Mom picked up on what I was going to say though. She told me for like 5 minutes how ashamed she was of me, and she also told me talking to her like that was bratty. Am I the asshole? First of all, my deepest condolences for the loss of your father. It's clear that family dynamics can be complicated, especially with the addition of step-family members. It's understandable that you and Evan have a closer bond given your shared experiences, and it's okay that you may not feel as close to Josh. However, it's also important to try and include Josh in some activities to foster a better relationship. In this particular situation, it seems like there was a miscommunication and hurt feelings on both sides. While it's great that you wanted to spend your birthday trip with Evan, it might have been a good opportunity to include Josh and work on building a stronger connection with him. It's understandable that your mom wants to see all her children getting along and spending time together. Ultimately, it's important to have open and honest communication with your family members. Maybe try to find a compromise where you can balance spending time with both Evan and Josh. Remember, family is what you make of it, and building relationships takes effort from all parties involved. Also, maybe try to throw in a dad joke here and there to lighten the mood a bit. Am I the antagonist for telling my kids why I don't buy their half-sibling anything? The mother of my 2 children, 10 months and 9 years old, cheated on me during our marriage and became pregnant with another man's child. I learned this when I caught her with the man in question, and after questioning her, she admitted there was a strong chance he was the father of the baby she was pregnant with. I ended our marriage right there and took a DNA test when her youngest was born, and she was not mine. So in the divorce, custody and support were only factored in for our 2 kids. I paid some child support because I made more than her, but we had 50-50 custody time with the kids, and I remained an involved dad. My ex lived with her youngest's father in October of last year when he took off without a word and left their lives. She has been pursuing child support ever since, but he cannot be found, and he quit the last known job he had, so she has been unsuccessful so far. This has led to her struggling, and I buy more for the kids we share so they don't suffer because of the failed relationship with the affair partner. Last month, my ex told me she was struggling to keep up with the expenses for her youngest, and she asked me if I would maybe buy some stuff that included her too. I said no, that I was responsible for my kids, and I would not become financially responsible in any way for the child she made while cheating on me. She begged and told me they will have different lives if I don't help, at least for now, and I told her that was not my problem, and maybe she'll think about that in the future before she starts an ongoing affair. She told our kids about asking me and encouraged them to ask me for them. The kids were confused because they have always known their half-sister is not my child, but they started to doubt because of how their mom talked, saying good men take care of all their children and loving a child who is part of your family should never be that hard. The kids approached me and asked me about it and told me their mom wanted them to ask me for stuff for their half-sister. So I explained to them that she is not my child or part of my family, but she is still part of theirs. They asked why, since my oldest has some memories of his mom and I being together while she was pregnant. I said their mom got pregnant with their half-sister while we were together, but DNA proved she was not mine, and I did not raise her for that reason. I told them I am still their dad and nothing has changed, but I was never really their half-sister's dad and don't want to buy her stuff like I do for them. They understood, and when they went back to their moms, she called and cussed me out for telling the kids more details than she wanted them to know. I said they had always been aware they had a different dad to her other child, and that needed to remain clear because I was not claiming her now that her father has abandoned her. She called me a cruel jerk. Am I the jerk? Wow, that's quite a situation you've got there. Humor aside, let's get real for a moment. Navigating through a scenario like this is no easy task. On one hand, you have every right to set boundaries regarding your financial responsibilities, especially considering the circumstances under which your ex's youngest child was conceived. It's understandable that you are prioritizing the well-being of your own children first. However, it's essential to tread carefully when it comes to addressing this issue with your kids. Honesty is crucial, but it's also essential to communicate in a way that doesn't create confusion or hurt feelings for them. It seems like you handled the situation with honesty and sensitivity, which is commendable. Your ex's reaction to your conversation with the kids may stem from her own difficulties in facing the consequences of her choices. While her struggles are valid, it's not fair for her to place the burden on you to alleviate them, especially when it involves a child from her extramarital affair. In conclusion, based on the information you've provided, it seems like you acted within your rights and with consideration for your children's well-being. So, are you the jerk in this situation? I would say no, you're not. It's essential to prioritize your children's emotional clarity and not feel pressured to assume financial responsibility for a child whose father has abandoned them. Keep being the involved and caring dad that you are, and don't let guilt overshadow your boundaries. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.